Welcome in, everybody, to another Gurus on Reality Survivor 49 review. This was episode 9 tonight. Mike Testa and Xavier Aguiar joining with you. Mike, we're not live tonight because we realized, hey, if we just upload it right after, we'll do more reach and we will get more viewership. But that doesn't mean that we didn't watch just as hard and take just as many notes. This was a fascinating episode of Survivor. But before we get into all of that, I was coming into this episode with high expectations because we knew last week that Savannah had the extra vote. Rizo still had his idol. So we were expecting some chaos. There was, a teeny bit of chaos, but this episode to me was far different than I predicted a week ago.
Oh, I thought it'd be... We teased the split vote last week where there's 9 people left, and how do you flush an idol with 9 people? You go 3 votes there, 3 votes there. And we kind of figured that's where we were careening towards. We didn't get that much chaos today. It was a little bit of chaos, but we went into tribal knowing it's between 2 people, and that I was a little bit surprised by. I thought we were going to have like 3 or 4 people on the chopping block, and we didn't really get that. And there was a reason why we didn't get that, because of the things that unfolded throughout the episode.
Yeah, and let's just get right into it. We did it last week. We'll do it again. We just want to dive in right from the top. So I just want to say right off the bat, the editing in this show has never been worse. It made no sense that we immediately go back to camp. So obviously last week there were these 2 factions. They split to vote that the losing tribe went. MC gets voted out. So the remaining people go back to camp and they merged, so to say. And we get this ended off the top that people are surprised that Yellow Sophie wasn't the one that went home.
Very surprised.
Doesn't really make any sense based off what we saw last episode. There was no real inkling of Yellow Sophie going home. And that kind of dissension with Yellow Sophie was caused when the 2 sides were split. It seemed like heading in, Yellow Soph was in a fine position. And then things started to deteriorate when Jawan was playing telephone. And there was this kind of Yellow Sophie versus MC battle with Rizo kind of hovering in the middle. So that's where the disdain for Sophie from us, the viewer, came from. Here, it was seemingly like there was a plan, because how else would they think that this is the case? A plan to potentially turn on Yellow Sophie. Mike, I texted you immediately. This doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Nope. Oh, I didn't get it. I know. Now, again, their perception of Yellow Sophie is a little bit different than our perception of Yellow Sophie. We saw her go toe-to-toe with people for 2 straight balancing challenges, which are good for women. Those are good for small women. Those challenges are always, catered to her type, her archetype, if you will.
Yep.
But the tribe viewed her apparently as this massive threat. So when MC got voted out, they acted like, wow, they didn't take out the big threat that is Yellow Sophie. When we've been watching these episodes, MC's been the one that's dominating the challenges, not Yellow Sophie, except for the 2 individual immunity balancing portions of it.
So it felt like a gross overreaction, and we said that last week, that, as you mentioned, her archetype fit the challenges. But even so, and this is, again, an editing fault, but it's not like we've seen a lot of Yellow Sophie either. So we don't really have a gauge on her social dynamic within the game. All we've seen of her, really, is be competitive in the last 2 and now 3 after today.
By the way,
challenges, all of which, as you mentioned, fit her archetype.
Yeah, by the way, there was actually a deleted scene that didn't make the edit of Yellow Sophie saying, do I really want to win all these immunities and be like a huge threat? Nah, not really. It's like she's already viewing herself as a big immunity challenge threat, as an all-time women competitor in this individual space. I don't know. It was 2 challenges. The merge just got here. So I thought it was a gross overreaction too. I was like, wait, why is everyone acting like they just let, some all-time immunity, like Tom Westman just someone that just keeps winning immunity, Joe from Survivor 29. Why do they just act like they kept this monster challenger in the game, which Sophie really isn't? I'm not breaking any news here. She's not. She won 1 challenge and then came second in the other balancing challenge. I don't know. The way that they were acting like, well, wow, I can't believe they left in this Yellow Sophie girl who's just going to win all these challenges. I thought it was a gross overreaction, and I was like, did you guys see MC in these challenges? She was pretty good too. Like, that was like their big thing. It wasn't that they trusted MC more, and they were like, wow, I can't believe they got out Yellow Sophie. Their gripe and their shock came from that Yellow Sophie's this huge competitor, and I can't believe that they kept her in the game, which she really isn't.
Yeah, and I think part of that is because she's a good competitor with the woman remaining, and we'll get into that a little bit later. Sure. But Yellow Sophie is kind of just as surprised as we are, so at least we have that going for us, because she's like, you guys are surprised I'm here? Why? Based off what? Because, again, Yellow Sophie probably has the perception that she was in danger because of the split, And so she's looking around like, okay. And it was awkward, but I think it was a viable reaction. Should she have said it? Probably not.
Right.
But I think it was a at least legit and fair response to what was transpiring around her.
I totally agree. Now that was the one read where I was like, wow, she's surprised. Now to not toot her own horn too much here, she immediately blurts that out to everybody. She literally goes, I don't feel good right now, guys. That you guys all thought I was going to be gone. Like she just kind of says it in front of everybody, like we're at summer camp or something like that. She at first says it in the confessional, which I'm like, yeah, okay. So she realizes that they don't really like her. She's on the bottom. Then she just straight up says, I don't feel good right now, guys. That you just all kind of assumed I'd be packing my bags. So it's kind of this awkward moment in the pre-intro scene where they're at camp and they're all just like, well, this is weird. She's still here. And she's kind of like actively saying, like, I'm surprised you guys are surprised I'm here. So it was just this weird kind of awkward moment there. I'm like, she says it out loud. It's like, do we need to do that really? Like, again, I get the awkward stuff there. Where it's like she walks into camp and they don't think that she'll be here. And of course, they don't think that Rizzo's idol's still there too. So there's that double layered thing there. But then she just blatantly goes out and kind of says and kind of, breaks the awkward silence of like, okay, I don't feel good about this right now, guys. What happened to us? This big happy Hina majority 6. What's going on here? And it was just kind of an awkward standoff there.
Yeah, and Steven mentioned that. He made an analogy to the tides turning in her direction and her not noticing, and I didn't think that was too fair. I think she understands that she has a target on her back. I don't think she understood that there was this weird push to get her out that, again, we didn't see. If that happened, we did not see it. No. So whether that is true or not, we really don't know.
Wasn't in the edit, no.
Yeah, wasn't in the edit. So it doesn't seem like that was a fair criticism. Obviously, there's a growing disdain against her, but it's not like she was in any real danger of going home. So it appeared, especially with how the vote shaked out last week. But Rizo immediately comes in, and this is the Rizo episode. There's a lot of Jawan early, but this becomes the Rizo episode, and it starts right off the bat with him kind of pointing at Alex and saying, I don't like that he's playing the middle. And to me, I thought this was a weird read because I thought it would have been smarter for Rizo to attack someone that he knows is directly against him. I just always think that there's this misconception, specifically within Survivor and Big Brother, that you try to get out like these double agents. But if you just understand that they're a double agent and don't really talk to them about game or don't fill them in on the exact plan, and you kind of play around them and get out the people intentionally trying to sabotage you, I think often that is the better gameplay. But regardless, that's what Rizo decided to do. He made the quote, if you're loyal to all, you're loyal to none, which I thought was very interesting because I didn't think Alex was on anyone's radar. We talked about it last week. You said he's floating through. I made the point where I think I agree with you, but he's still this physical threat. He's so visually imposing. I believe eventually there's going to be a target on his back, but it wasn't because he was physical acclimate. No, it was because he was playing both sides, which I thought was incredibly interesting. Your thoughts on immediately Rizo planting the seeds to get Alex out?
I was surprised that he was... Look, I told you last week, I would be floored if it wasn't Jawan, Steven, or Yellow Sophie going home in this episode. So I am very, very surprised with how it played out. Now, again, I didn't think there'd be 2 immunity necklaces there, so that's kind of, hand up, didn't see that coming. But Alex, I thought if he got voted out, it would be because he was really good in a challenge and they got threatened by him, and that's why they voted him out. I did not think that it would be because Rizo saw that he had his hands in too many jars, if you will. I did not foresee that happening because Rizo just gets out and he blindsides MC, so he's feeling on top of the world. Usually when you do that, you kind of get your eyes off the road for a second. You're like, okay, I just made this huge move. I showed my idol, and I figured Rizo would kind of, stray away from his next biggest threat, which I do believe is Alex. So I do believe he made the right read here. I don't think
I disagree that it's Alex, but I agree of the people left it was. We'll save that.
No, I don't think that Alex was directly going for Rizzo. So let me just clarify that. I think that the reason why he wanted to get out, and I see Boston Rob do it all the time, where he obviously wants to get out his enemies, but the most dangerous people are the ones in the middle because they can slide right to Final 3. So I think in Rizzo's mind, he does not want Alex in Final 3. We'll talk about it later with Jawan, who maybe has no win equity at all. I think Alex did have some win equity with the way he was playing, and the relationships that he had that maybe weren't making the edit, but it looked like he was good with everybody. Jawan, I thought was...
The way he survived that initial blue death tribe as well. Impressive.
That would have been a good story at the Final 3. Jawan, it feels like he's burning too many bridges right now. Alex had no bridges burned. He survived the blue tribe, which is no longer here to even tell the story. So he's still there. Sophie is like the one life vest that is still in that blue tribe there, but he's making some inroads with the yellow with the Hina tribe, obviously. So I think Rizzo noticed that and said, wait a second. Alex, yes, he's a physical threat. Maybe he'll start winning later, but I got to get him out right now. A few more votes, and we talked about it last week. he could then start to win and then maybe make a case for. And I don't want him anywhere in the final 3. So I think that's where Rizzo was thinking. I don't think that right now was the right time to take out Alex. I think that right now, and we'll get to the split vote thing, but obviously they all. I mean, we'll get to it basically. But Alex gets dogpiled and gets voted out 5-1. But I think that Rizzo right now going for Alex is interesting, considering he just pulled off an MC blindside. I figured that he might wait maybe a tribal or 2 to pull the trigger on Alex, but he was from the very first scene steadfast. He had a target locked in on Alex and spent the whole hour and a half episode trying to get everyone to vote Alex. So that I thought was interesting, and I did not see that coming because the edit didn't. There was no foreshadowing of Rizzo targeting Alex. We didn't get any of that prior to this week, so I did not know that. And I'm floored at the result.
And perhaps it did kind of come together quickly once Rizzo realized that he had the immunity idol. Savannah had the extra vote. I think all of that really played a part. But let's transition here into the reward challenge, which was fine. It's typical modern Survivor. It's a little obstacle course and then shooting a ball, or in this case, a ring. It's all the same thing. And I thought it was a little bit too short. I thought the teams were interesting as well. So Christina, basically all you need to know about this. The winners don't even matter. It was Christina, Yellow Sophie, Savannah, and Alex. Okay? The winners don't really matter. This is what matters. After the competition is over, Juwan is sulking because he hasn't had a like traditional Survivor meal yet, even though people online were saying, did he not have the chickens that they've been, killing and eating? Whatever. That doesn't matter. He hasn't had the reward meal. Okay. So all of a sudden, Christina makes this plea, Juwan, you have to take my spot. I feel terrible. All the, the waterworks. Juwan immediately says, no, I can't do that. And then folds immediately. He's like, okay, guys, hey, you talked me into it. My bad. I gotta go. It's all good. I hated that, A, he accepted it, and B, that she gave it to him because, Mike, this was not a game move, like, at all. And they can try to spin it as one. We both know, in our heart of hearts, that this was not a game move. If it was, I'd say, okay, maybe. Christina and Juwan are fine. They're like softly working together. Not really. I don't know what their dynamic is, but clearly Juwan does not have it out for Christina. Christina clearly did not have it out for Juwan. This was a good humanitarian move, and on a show not for $1 million, I would understand that, but this one is. So I had a problem with this, because are you trying to win Survivor, or are you trying to make a sappy edit? I just couldn't understand why Christina, who again, this game is a kind of a sprint now, but you need to be fueled. You need to be ready to go, and food is a big part of that. So why in the world would you forego your chance to refuel, kind of enjoy yourself, have an easy time, for someone that you're not really super closely aligned with, but also on the flip side, not really worried about either? So this, to me, was blasphemous and kind of everything wrong with modern Survivor.
Here's the issue, though, and I totally agree. It was not a game move at all. I think it was just her trying to be nice. That we agree with. However, in the Survivor lens, I view everything as, okay, well, what does this mean for the episode? Because it wouldn't just be in here for no reason, right? I'm viewing it as a game lens. I'm thinking, okay, did Christina just put an unnecessary target on her back, that she's too kind, she's too with everybody? Is this going to backfire on Christina? Is it going to backfire on Juwan? I don't know, but I was thinking that way, and Rachel Lamont, winner of Survivor 47, was like, isn't everything strategic in this game? I don't think this one was. So I don't think this was a strategic call. But I think that everything gets viewed as strategy. Like, if this was 7 years ago, I think Christina might have got her hands in too many. Like, I don't think again, 7 years ago in a reward challenge, if you gave it up, you almost got viewed as like, oh wait, that person's playing the game. Like that's on, now we're on the radar. They're actually looking for jury votes now. They're pitching. That's how it used to be viewed as that's why people stopped doing it. Now it's obviously not viewed as that. I get it. But I'm still, as an audience member, looking and I'm like, why would she do that again? Like, what was the point now in giving up a reward? Is it just because he hasn't eaten in 17 days? Like, why 17 days? Like, I didn't get the logic behind it, so I was like, why did she pick now to do it? And I was like, why is it in the edit? I mean, obviously she volunteered to give up the award, so obviously that makes the edit. But I'm just like, I didn't really understand the logic of it. Of why she painted a target on her back, even though it's not a game move. I get it. But why would you even go out of your way to do it? Is my thing. Any one of the four could have been like, hey, Juwan, you want to talk with me? Why did she do it? I mean, again, I texted you this. She was the captain. So people that don't know the challenge, there was 3 captains. Christina was one of the captains. If she wanted Juwan to win so bad, why don't you just pick Juwan? And then if they win together, they win. And if they lose, then they lose together. I don't know. But it felt a little weird to me that she won the challenge as a captain and said, you know what, I'm going to give up my spot. Jawan, you take it. And then Jawan, of course, takes it. He does the whole, I want to earn it. I don't want to, have it someone handed to me. But of course, everyone takes it. No one says no to a reward on Survivor when you haven't eaten in 2 weeks. Nobody says no to a reward. That's just number one. So he did the whole faked out, like, I don't really want to do it. I'm gonna be dishonorable, like, I want to earn it, and then took the reward, of course, which hopefully didn't really matter. I mean, it's like all he did was eat. I thought he ate the chicken already. I saw him and Steven eat the chicken like a few days ago. I don't know, but I guess he didn't win that reward challenge because they swapped again the third time. So I don't know. It was weird. He didn't really win a proper reward. So I guess this one was him winning the award, which again he didn't even win. He got swapped on the winning team. So it was just
how about you earn it like you just mentioned? Like why should you be gift wrapped this? I don't understand whatsoever. The whole point of the challenge is to win the challenge, and obviously sometimes you have a substandard team. It's not like he's been on terrible teams. These challenges have been relatively close.
Yeah.
Again, he's not really adding anything to his squad either. So to me, this is just weird.
Yeah, but it seemed like all 9 people wanted to eat. So for whatever that's worth, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think at some point when 3 people want him to eat, then the other 6 are like, we should pretend
to him. Yeah,
we want him to eat too. And as much as I love Rachel, she's one of the most dominant winners in the last few years. Maybe in a different season, everything's a game move, but we know,
maybe she viewed as
that this was not a game move. At least with this cast, because this cast is
right.
Are rough.
If there was 8 Rachel Lamonts in this cast, maybe they would be viewing it as a game move and they want to get Christina out. But this cast, no, of course not.
No Queen Rachel's over here.
No.
So we get back to the beach, away from the reward, and Sage and Christina are hellbent on Savannah going home. They claim that she has mean girl energy, which is true. But the funniest thing about this to me was the rudest person on this entire cast about saying things about other people is Sage.
Yes.
Savannah is a little bit of a shit talker, and she's competitive, but she's been relatively nice. She hasn't made it personal. It's all been game. The one who's made it personal, and to some people has crossed the line, I don't think she has, but I'm just saying, I'm just throwing it out there, is Sage. So right. I thought that was comical. I just wanted to bring that up. But the reason I wrote this down was because I think this is the first actual move Christina attempted with some force. She actually believed in this one. There was that little scuffle with her and Yellow Sophie, which feels like moons ago, that didn't really lead to anything of note, but this felt real. But as soon as she does that, she makes arguably the stupidest move of the entire season, and one of the stupidest moves I can remember. She confides in Blue Sophie, which, if you haven't been following along, Blue Sophie has been in lockstep with Rizo and Savannah the entire time. She has not played the middle. She has not pretended to play the middle. She's nice to everybody because she's clearly a nice person.
Yeah.
But she has been steadfast with those two. And for some godly knows reason, Christina, I think what she thinks here is they only have 3 votes. Sophie will kind of tap out from working with Rizo and Savannah and will go to the right side of history, if you will. Okay, that's fine, but you don't need to tell her exactly how the upcoming vote is going to go. So obviously what happens next is Blue Sophie immediately tells Savannah, and then they fill in Rizo. And to me, this is the definition of where this cast is. They are 3 steps behind. If you at the merge want to go to Blue Sophie and say, hey, we're flipping, you guys don't have the numbers, I want you here with me. I don't want you to be on the wrong side. If they did that, that's a valiant attempt. Okay. Because you're going to have the votes anyway. She can kind of die on her sword, or she can move with you and try to make a new connection. Okay. But now, granted, they're not privy to the fact that Savannah has an extra vote. But there's still this tension within the tribe, which is very obvious. No one really is 100% sure where people are voting. They think that this majority alliance is kind of still there, but everyone's side-eyeing each other like, I don't know, what about this person, what about this person? They are not cohesive whatsoever. So for Christina to be making this out to Sophie as they are this strong unit, join this strong unit with this amazing plan that we 100% have going down, it's just a gross misread. What did you think about this whole saga that unfolded?
This was so bad. In a normal season, this would have got Christina voted out. This would have been because
Probably,
once Rizzo heard about the plan, they'd be like, "Wait a second, Christina, vote her out." That's what it normally would get. It would fall back on her.
She was relevant enough. I think that's where it would have went.
Totally fair. She has an idol that they don't know about, so I guess if she revealed everything, hey, Blue Sophie, I have an idol, and we want to bring you in, then she would have got herself voted out. 100%. That would have been like, what are you doing? This was, first of all, the one thing you didn't talk about was she told her before the challenge. So she tells her the plan before the challenge, right? The plan, of course, changes after the challenge because we know who wins immunity. I'm not going to spoil it, but we know who wins immunity. So she tells her this entire plan as if the challenge has already been played. It's like, hey, here's how we're voting tonight. Here's how it's going to be. So you're going to be with us. We're going to split the votes. 3, 3, and 3.
The person who won the last immunity necklace, by the way.
We're going to vote her out.
Yeah.
And we're gonna put enough votes on Rizzo that so he plays his idol. So she tells him the whole plan that we kind of thought they would do last week because that's the only way you flush an idol with 9 people. Obviously, is a split vote. But you didn't need to tell the person on the bottom that your entire plan. You don't need to do that. You don't need to be like, yeah, here's exactly where we're gonna vote. At least have some misdirection, some mystery of this split vote because you never. I mean, there's 3 people. Maybe you put it on the 2 people that they're not expecting. I don't know. Maybe they did. Maybe instead of putting 3 votes on Rizzo and 3 votes on Savannah, maybe you do 3 votes on Blue Sophie and 3 votes on Savannah. I don't know, but you could. You didn't have to tell her exactly what we're going to do before the challenge happened because obviously plans can change in the challenge, and obviously we learned that there's 2 immunity necklaces that we're going to get to. But the whole thing felt completely unnecessary from Christina at the water well to tell someone who we obviously know that she hadn't worked with at all. Again, if she made any connection with her at the merge, we didn't see it. So I thought the whole thing was totally out of left field. It just felt like, oh, Christina's playing the game now. Like she's making moves, but it was a totally unnecessary move. Like we know they were splitting the votes anyways. Why are you telling the other side? It's like, hey, enemy, we're going to do this plan. What's your counterattack? It felt so unnecessary to me. It's like, if you're in a tight group of 6, which if it really was tight, you wouldn't be spilling all this information. So obviously it's a very fractured group of 6 because stuff's getting leaked out and people are like, wait, what's going on here? Blue Sophie knows the plan now. She's telling the other 3 people. The whole thing was totally, totally unnecessary. And in a normal year of Survivor, I think Christina would have got herself voted out by playing way overplaying. Because we've heard that term used this entire season. That was overplaying. That was unnecessary. Why would she do that? I don't know. But again, it didn't hurt her. But it doesn't make any sense either.
No, not at all. But let's transition into that immunity challenge because the only thing we're skipping over here is Sav revealing to Blue Soph that she is a reporter, which I put okay with 5 question marks because who cares?
Okay.
But clearly Blue Sophie was appreciative of that, so I guess it was a good move. Whatever.
You also spoke. Steven told Sage the what did he tell Sage? The something that she would not tell Juwan. I forget exactly what it was, but he confided in Sage and he was like, "Hey, I'm gonna give you this information." And then Sage did not run and tell Juwan what it was. I already forget what it was, but it wasn't necessary in the episode. It was not. It did not
I do too. It doesn't matter. Maybe it'll come up, and maybe we look like idiots for not remembering. But
no. So basically, the whole thing was Steven now lost MC, and he's looking for a new MC, and his MC is Sage, and he told her some information. That's basically all you need to know.
That's kind of the skinny there. But the immunity challenge I thought was kind of fun. It wasn't exactly what I predicted last week. It had nothing to do with your correlated weight. It was just kind of the best way to describe it was you're kind of doing a leg press, but it's not as much to do with the weight as the balance of it,
Correct.
Which again kind of caters to the same archetype, which is why we keep getting these same people advancing over and over again, which I made this point to you off air a while ago. I believe this was about 47. Rachel Lamont deserved to win the season. She was dominant. But a lot of the challenges were catered to her strength, which is she's a puzzle mastermind, and it felt like every challenge was a puzzle.
It was like 5
now, it feels like every challenge is a balancing challenge, and you're going to get the same result every time, which is what we get.
Here's the thing. Real quick.
Yeah.
The early portion of the merge typically is either balancing or balancing some sort of ball on a platform. It's usually historically what the early part of the merge is.
Yeah.
And the last 5 are usually puzzles, which is why once Rachel got to the final 7 or whatever it was, she was able to kind of win out.
But sometimes there is like some weight involved or something of that nature. So that's why you see some of the stronger people kind of dominate now, and then eventually it turns. But we're not seeing that, and it's because it's more of the nimble balancing rather than the balancing with weight or something of that nature.
Exactly right.
Because again, it didn't appear to me that it was really a weight-driven challenge whatsoever. It seemed solely based off balancing. So Steven wins the male side easily. Rizzo drops out within minutes. I don't know if he was throwing it or if it was just a foot thing. He looked done with it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And then Alex dropped out relatively quickly. Jawan was saying his sibling's name. It was kind of a time back to earlier in the episode with the reward when he was talking about his siblings and his upbringing and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, Steven looked rock solid. It wasn't competitive. And that to me was interesting. If they're going to keep doing these gender competitions, it feels like Steven, depending on what it is, Rizzo can give him a run for his money. But Steven, of the males at this point in time, of the 9 that we saw, I thought immediately, okay, Steven's in a great position. That won't happen because of what happens later. But it's just a note that I want to throw out there. As far as the women are concerned, we all knew how this was going. I want to say shout out to Blue Sophie. I thought she did really well. But this was always going to be Yellow Sophie and Savannah the entire time.
Of course.
Sage and Christina had no chance whatsoever, as they always do. They are so not competitive. And Sophie and Savannah are right there. And the reason I teased this earlier was because right now, of the 5 women left, I'd say if she's replenished and it's a specific type of comp, I think Blue Sophie has a fighter's chance.
Sure.
I think Christina and Sage have absolutely no chance whatsoever. And I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's a puzzle. I don't care if you're climbing something, throwing something, whatever you are doing. The favorites by far are Yellow Sophie and Savannah. So I don't know if anyone else is going to realize this, but to me, that is incredibly jarring. And you can make an argument that, like, on the male side, Rizzo and Steven in particular have a chance, sure, and I understand that. But right now, to me, the 2 comp beasts of the season, based off everything we've seen, all the different types of comps, and what we know historically is down the pipeline, it's clearly Yellow Sophie and Savannah. Savannah is trash-talking the entire time at the end. And I think it is a little bit more fun-natured. And then at the end, she's kind of looking at her. She's like, I'm not dropping. You might as well save yourself now. I am not going anywhere. And I don't even think she moved an inch the entire time. So I tend to believe her. Savannah wins. My question here is, so just to recap, Savannah and Steven are the ones with immunity. Is Savannah getting a little too cocky in these challenges that even her allies could be rubbed the wrong way? I think people thought it was funny. I saw a lot of people laughing. I know Yellow Sophie doesn't necessarily appreciate it because she's competing with Savannah. Yeah. But I think the other people know it's fun and natured. What do you think about kind of her tactics? Not only winning these comps, but the way she's winning them, which is dominant and kind of with a big chip on her shoulder.
Yeah, like I'm better than you. I mean, I don't mind it. I wouldn't. It's not my style of competitiveness, by the way. But I do believe that Savannah probably has a background in sports. I don't know for sure, but I mean, it just feels like she kind of was like that soccer player that kind of scored a goal and like talk trash after scoring. I don't know. I mean, she's certainly that kind of person that is just a competitive, fiery person. I don't think Yellow Sophie obviously likes that very much because she wants to win as much as anyone else. I don't mind. I don't mind her winning. Obviously, if you want to win a challenge, win a challenge. The way she went about it. If she's better than you, she can let you know she's better than you, and that could be an advantage or that could be a disadvantage to leave in the game. I don't know, but with the amount of women left, I mean. She really doesn't have to even say it out loud. I mean, we know Sage probably can't win anything. Christina gonna have a hard time winning some challenges. Blue Sophie, if it's a puzzle, rule her out. So of the women left, yes, certainly. If they're gonna keep doing these gender only challenges, then Savannah's in a really good spot. If she has to only worry about Yellow Sophie, and just in general, it looks like she's better at these challenges than most of the people there. So again, if she's gonna say that out loud and voice that in a kind of a cocky, competitive way, I don't mind it. Not my approach, but. At this point, there's only 8 people left, so I mean, do what you got to do at this point. It's 1 in 8 shot, 1 in 7 shot, 1 in 6 shot. The closer you get, at this point, everyone knows she's a target. There's no point in hiding and being like, I want to be mild and mannered about it. At this point, whatever. It doesn't bother me. Let me just say that it doesn't really bother me the way she went about it.
I think it adds to her mystique. I think it adds to her character, and I think when you're on a show like this, you need to be memorable. You often don't see someone win at the end, and you're like, what were their memorable moments?
Yeah.
And it's not just winning either. You can win comps, but they can be not memorable at the same time. You either have to be dominant, you have to be personality, mix both, whatever it may be. You need to have something to you, and clearly Savannah has something to her. But after the challenge, this is when the episode really kicks it up 5 gears. This is when it gets fun.
Yeah.
So Rizzo is still gung-ho on getting out Alex. He is committed, he has blinders on, and he is locked in. Here's what's interesting, and we'll get into this in a bit because I want to recap more of this here. But Rizzo feels okay with Juwan and Sage, which I thought was weird. Obviously, they just did his bidding, the tribal before,
the MC,
helping him keep his idol and get out MC, who he wanted to get out. So in his mind, he swayed them.
Correct.
Did it happen that way? We're not sure. We'll get into that way later. But that's his belief. So in his mind, he has the votes. And I was texting you, I think it might be better if Savannah drops this because I think they have Yellow Sophie in their pocket. But we get back to camp. We're seeing Yellow Sophie play both sides. We don't really know where she goes. She'd be the pivotal fourth vote. So even if the other side were to split votes, if they had Yellow Sophie, it'd be a done deal. And Juwan and Sage would not matter at all. And that's why the episode was trying to portray Juwan and Sage as kind of the swing votes. But in reality, all they needed was Yellow Sophie. It was just one vote. It wasn't two. Because of the three people, as far as Savannah, Blue Sophie, and Rizo. So that's why I kept saying Yellow Sophie is, again, kind of being under-edited here because she is far more important, in my opinion, than Sage and Juwan. But regardless.
Well, not to Rizo. Not to Rizo should not. Rizo is
Rizo isn't necessarily thinking about it like that because of the prior relationship he has with Sage and Juwan. But it seems like Savannah and Blue Sophie are really trying to reel Yellow Sophie in. So maybe there was a wire crossing there. Maybe Rizo wasn't as privy to them kind of luring her in. I don't know. But regardless, that's how I was thinking about this entire thing. And that's important for later. Because Alex is all of a sudden being painted as this major threat, not just from Rizzo's mouth, but to other people as well. Rizo planted the seeds effectively. It's not just, Rizzo's trying to save his idol again. He has actually made these people believe that Alex playing the middle is costly to everyone's game, which is really important because Soph and Juwan, Sage and Juwan are painted as these swing votes, so they're looking at it like, hold on a second here. Do we really need to back this guy? We'd still have the numbers. If Yellow Soph's on our side, we'd still have the numbers. We can actually take one of our own out again. Worry about Rizo later. At least now we have a core we trust. That's how it was being portrayed to me, how they were thinking about it. Because I think they'd only go with this plan if they had the idea that they know they could get out Savannah and Rizo later. Which doesn't seem plausible because they simply don't know what they have just gotten themselves into. So, Mike, Rizo does not want to use his idol. That is very apparent. This entire episode, he's like, I am not using it.
I didn't think
they went a major majority on Rizo and took the risk, he was probably going home. But not only were they terrified of the idol, more so than anything, what Rizo did was plant these seeds of doubt on Alex and effectively use his idol as kind of a force field around his people to make sure that all the votes wouldn't land on either him or Blue Soph. He effectively did that, which to me is one of the most incredible moves I've ever seen because he's done it now 2 weeks in a row when he shouldn't have been able to do it 1 week. So the fact he's done it twice in a row now is just simply unbelievable.
I cannot believe they allowed him to do that. Number one, I'm just going to go ahead. This was so stupid, and I'm going to use harsh words. This was so stupid on the part of Juwan.
Be harsh. Be super harsh.
It was completely ridiculous. So, they allowed him to plant seeds for 48 hours on Alex. That's number one. Okay, fine, do that. Then he's able to convince them all that Alex is actually the most dangerous player in the game. So he successfully does both of those things. He plants the seeds and then actually gets them.
Which, Mike, barring something we didn't see in the edit,
would have
came out of thin air. Which usually when something comes out of thin air in Survivor, the person spewing that, it usually comes back on them because they're like, this is clearly a last-ditch effort. You're just trying to spew that. Even if it's true, by the way. Even if it's true, which in this case, to an extent, it was true. Was he the most dangerous? No. I don't think that there's any argument for that.
But prior to this episode, no one said
the middle. He was playing the middle, and there was probably a concern about where he stood in the game because of his relationship prior with Blue Sophie. But as you keep alluding to, before this episode, again, we don't know what was actually happening on the beach. We're watching an edit of the show. But before this, we have not seen anyone at all bring up his name.
Let me just put myself in Juwan and Sage's shoes for a second here. If Rizo came to me and planted seeds about Alex, who I'm allegedly working with, and convinced me that Alex is the biggest threat in the game, I would immediately say, holy cow, Rizzo's good. He just convinced me in less than 48 hours to turn on an alliance member of my own. That's what I would immediately get. I'm like, wait a second. Rizo just did that and I'm actually convinced? Rizzo's the scariest player of the game. That's what I would say if I was Sage and Juwan. So if I'm Sage and Juwan, at the very least, I'm putting the majority votes on Rizzo, and then Alex could be a fallback. Sure, whatever. But you can't, and on any circumstance, let Rizzo once again control a vote from the bottom with an idol that is not hidden at all. It's not a hidden immunity idol. It's just an idol that everyone knows he has, and he needs to play it. You need to flush the idol, and he's Survivor 101. I mean, this is if you're going to go on the show, you have to be a good player, that is, which I'm not so sure that Sage and Juwan are good players. Flush an idol that is not hidden. Everyone knows it's out there. Make sure he uses it so that he's not a massive, player in this game, because he's kind of using that idol as some leverage to, control the votes. Usually with idols, people say, okay, I need to keep myself safe, and I'll worry about tomorrow. Rizzo's doing the total opposite. He's worrying about tomorrow right now. He's like, I need to get Alex out before this very statement. I need to worry about getting here and getting my idol to final 8 and then getting into final 7. He's not even thinking one day at a time. He's thinking down the line. He's already thinking way past this, and usually that's when people get blindsided with an idol in their pocket because they're thinking too far ahead. Not at all. Not here at all. He's able to once again control a vote. I'm shocked that they allowed this to happen. I'm really shocked. And I'm getting animated because I just can't believe that Survivor players that tried out for the show and apparently are good are letting this happen. I'm shocked that they're letting him convince everyone that 24 hours ago, Alex was on nobody's radar. Again, according to the edit, we did not know that he was on anyone's radar. And then all of a sudden, we have like 7 people saying, "Yeah, Alex is really dangerous. He's really." And again, I didn't see him do anything in this episode that would suggest he's actually a dangerous player. Other than he had that one mention where he's like, "I'm going to pick a side now. I'm going to go with a group to the end," which of course he wasn't doing prior to this. But he said it in a confessional. It wasn't like he blatantly said, "Hey, I'm going to turn on the alliance" or something like that. He didn't say anything. Like Rizzo kind of sat down with him, took a little bit of information, then also added a bunch of other stuff and said, "Hey, here's what Alex told me." And it was a lot of like maybe 40% true, 40% make believe, and then 20% let's add that in there too. It was a lot of Rizzo's manufacturing and planting seeds. Not all of it's really true, but everyone bought it apparently. I mean, everyone apparently bought this information, and they didn't talk about it as an alliance of 6. It's like, hey, what did Rizzo tell you? What story did Rizzo tell you about Alex? No one cross-examined. I mean, it was just very strange. And again, usually when this happens, when it's out of thin air, it goes back to the person who's stirring the pot, which in this case was Rizzo. He's planting all the seeds. He's stirring the pot on Alex. He's trying to get everyone to look that way. And usually everyone cross-examines. That's usually what an alliance of 6 does. This did not happen at all in this episode, at least, again, according to the edit.
Mike, can I tell you the biggest flaw about this? And I haven't seen anyone say this, but this occurred to me immediately. I truly have not seen it. I'm sure people are saying it. Walk with me here. So,
sure.
Savannah won immunity. You can't vote her out. Rizzo has the idol. You're scared of him. Now, realistically, you'd want one of those 2 people out, right?
Yeah.
Mike, what's the next best thing if you can't get one of those 2 people out?
I would target the person that's working with him. That's what I would do.
Okay, which is Blue Sophie.
Sure.
Here's what they could have done. There's 9 people left. There's 3 people on the other side. You cannot vote out Savannah. So that's a 3-6 split, if you will, okay? Walk with me here. Why wouldn't they play 5 on Blue Soph? What's the downside of that? Maybe you throw a rogue vote on Rizzo. Maybe you just make the word we're all putting all of them on Rizzo. If he doesn't use the idol, okay. Because then the next time you go to tribal council, it's a 6-2 majority, and you can, no matter what happens, you have the numbers. Because again, we're just prefacing this with the fact that they don't know Savannah has the extra vote. So that's the world we're living in here.
Correct.
You can just put 3 on each. They only have 2. One of them's gone.
Correct.
See you later. And even somehow, if it were a tie, you'd revote the other person. There's no scenario unless Savannah wins immunity and Rizzo uses the idol. It would take a lot. That's all I'm going to say. It would take a lot. And I would bet that they would take their odds in that situation, that Savannah doesn't win the 3rd immunity necklace,
sure,
or that Rizzo doesn't win over the 6-person field. At some point in Survivor, you need to just play your odds because you can't have everything go your way. Sure. That's just how the show operates. So you need to play your odds. So to me, I'm like, this is an obvious move. You just vote out Blue Soph, and then that takes out a number for them. And now they're kind of, prone, waiting to be struck next. That, to me, was the obvious play. They were so obsessed with flushing the idol, which I understand.
Which they didn't do.
If you were so obsessed with flushing the idol, you probably should have did that when you really had a great chance to do it. Instead, they waited It was all disjointed. You can't really flush the idol if like you can, but then one of your side, none of it made sense. There was a way where their side didn't lose a number, and they took out a number from the minority. And for some reason, they were trying to not even have their cake and eat it too. I don't even really understand what the logic was. Did you? I didn't. No, I didn't understand whatsoever. But Mike, that is where tribal comes into play, because this tribal was hilarious. This is so funny because we're there, and it seems like the majority, the 6-person majority, alleged 6-person majority, air quotes, they're like, yeah, we're gonna flush the idol tonight. Everything's gonna go our way. And then there's Rizo looking about as confident as you could possibly look at a tribal. Yeah. And that's when I knew, oh my God, did he do it again? And you bet he did, because Mike, this was a clear victory for the Minority Alliance.
Again.
Blue Soph, Savannah, Rizo. They did it again. They pulled it off. And the most fascinating part about it was that Yellow Soph, Jawan, and Sage voted with that minority. So it was no longer a minority. It was a 6-2-1 vote.
Correct.
And as I mentioned to you, I texted you a few times about it, and it ended up happening. They didn't need Jawan and Sage. They're happy they got him, I'm sure. But Yellow Soph turned, and I thought the seeds were planted the entire time. I thought the way she was talking with Savannah and Blue Soph was authentic. I smelled it the entire time. I was like, they have her. They don't need to play the extra vote. They don't need to play the idol. They don't even need Sage and Jawan. They are kind of relevant. They have Yellow Soph. And to me, that is the development out of this, because I don't know what Sage and Jawan are doing after this. But if Soph attaches herself, even though she's at the bottom, she'd be at the bottom of either. Wouldn't you rather attach yourself with the person that has the idol? Wouldn't that be far smarter of a game move? You have an extra shield. They could potentially go for you, but they can't split votes now. They don't have the ammo to split votes, because now it's 4-4. And you're in a great position. If you and Savannah were to team up, you guys can win a ton of these immunity necklaces. You can be a power duo, trio, quartet, however many people you want to rope in here. I thought this episode, as much as it was about Rizo and his masterclass, and we'll get into that in a second, I want to hear your thoughts on Yellow Sophie, because to me, she positioned herself way, way better than I thought she had any chance of doing before this episode started.
I'm going to give Rizo, Savannah, and Blue Sophie their flowers. They deserve a lot of credit. I mean, they deserve credit for pulling it off, but this was, to me, more of a total debacle on the other side. It's like the 28-3 Super Bowl. It's like, okay, credit to New England. All the plays. Credit to Tom Brady. Legacy moment, but they needed some help to get back in the game. Atlanta made some crucial mistakes. I don't know. I can't make sense of what they were doing. The majority 6, of course.
Mike, can we really boil it down to the 5, which was Alex, who went home, yes, Christina, who had no idea what was going on, and then Sage and Jawan, and Steven was also along for the ride. But those 5, to me, I think Yellow Sophie made a move best for her game. Sure. I thought it was fine. The other 5, inexcusable. Inexcusable.
Yeah, totally fair. Say Yellow Sophie goes and flips to the other side. Rizo doesn't play his idol, right? Yep. If Sage and Jawan really wanted to vote out Rizo, they still could have. Because remember, Christina was splitting votes, Alex was splitting votes, so Rizzo's going to get at least 2 votes there, or 3 votes in this case, if Jawan and Sage both voted for Rizo. So if they wanted him gone, they still could have got him gone, because they would have had at least 3 votes against him, and his idol would not have been used, so they could have re-voted him out if they wanted to do that. So,
Mike, that's the notion of it, but here's my problem with the whole thing. Even if Yellow Soph flipped, that's 4. If the other 5 just voted Blue Soph, they still have the majority, and they won. It's over. There's no need to split votes. You don't have to flush Rizo's idol right now. It actually is almost not beneficial. They were so convinced that this idol is so terrifying that they had to quote-unquote flush it, even though they weren't actually really flushing it, and their method of doing so didn't really make any sense. If it was true, fine, that's one thing. But they didn't really have the ammo or the personnel to flush his idol. So what ended up happening was that 5 that was together became so disjointed and so fractured, they voted all over the place, and somehow Alex is the one who gets left to the side, when in reality, that 5 could have stuck together, voted out a number in the minority. It could have been Yellow Sophie, Savannah, and Rizo. They'd still be the minority. They could get out Yellow Sophie. Then they'd have a 5-2. However way you want to shake it, they'd be in the majority going forward, and they'd be in a power position in the end game. Instead, they tried to get way too cute. They were so obsessed with getting Rizo out, which to an extent I understand, but the actual best game move was just to pluck out a number from their side, which was Blue Soph.
I think the right thing to do was to put 5 votes on Rizo, which they could have done. They could have literally
did that too, but I think that's a little bit too risky.
It's not risky. Here's why it's not risky.
Okay.
Rizo's target was Alex. So if you're Sage and Jawan, there's no blowback on you. He's not going to turn on you. Apparently, Rizo's very indebted to Sage and Jawan for whatever reason. His votes are going to Alex. You knew that because you confided in him for the last 24 hours. So you know his target is Alex. His target could have still very well been Alex, and you could have put 5 votes on Rizo, and if he uses his idol, guess what? Alex goes home. There's no big deal. He got his way, but at least he flushed his idol in the process. So you're not trusting him. You're not voting with him, but you're putting numbers. At least, in the very least, I said you have to put the majority of the votes on Rizo. That's the only logical thing you do here, or Blue Sophie, like you said. But you have to, at the very least, get one of their sides out. You can't put all.
Yes. No matter what you think is better, the better move is to make sure that you get a person out.
There's no way they put the majority votes on Alex, who has no idol as a sitting duck, and then let Rizo control the vote. There's no way that scenario should have ever been the one that Sage and Jawan went with. They should have, heading into tribal, said, hey, you, me, Steven, bottoms up alliance, we're going to put the majority votes on Rizo. If he wants Alex out so bad, play your idol and idle him out of the game in a 5-3 vote, or 5-4 if Yellow Sophie went with him, of course, which he did. So you could have done that. And they didn't. They just dogpile all the votes on Alex. Steven doesn't even vote with them, which is kind of sketch. I don't really know why. Maybe he was told to not vote. I don't know. But the whole way it played out was, I'm looking at this, before I get to Yellow Sophie and talk about her positioning in the game, I'm looking at this majority 6, again, massive air quotes here. I don't know if they're good players. I said that last week. I don't know if any of them are good players. I have no idea what any of them are doing. Even Yellow Sophie, because at this point, when she flipped, it almost came as a necessity instead of like she knows she's on the bottom now. In my opinion, I would have flipped before this if I was Yellow Sophie, but I guess she had the meltdown last cycle, and she's kind of at the mercy of Rizo now, who kind of saved her last episode, even though she doesn't really know that. So her read came a little bit later than mine would have, but she made the right move for her game. The other 5 in the alliance, I don't know what they're doing. It feels like if I was the coach for that side of the house, I would be like, why are you guys letting Rizo control the game from the position he's in with an idol that's not hidden at all? I would be like, you guys realize what you're doing, right? And Sage and Jawan, again, I thought Sage was kind of making the moves here. She hasn't made a move in what feels like 3 episodes at this point.
She's pretended to make the moves, but she actually hasn't done anything. The big move was both criticized at the time, didn't make a whole ton of sense. Let's go here, since you went off topic, didn't really answer my question. I'll just go along with where you're
at. Yellow Sophie was the actual question. I didn't even get to her, but
yeah. But I want to piggyback off the Jawan and Sage thing, and then we'll circle back to Yellow Sophie. To me, I just don't understand what they're doing, because I thought the way this episode was going to shake out was there was going to be 5 votes on Yellow Soph, and then 5 votes on, I guess, Alex. I didn't really know what was going on, because I thought the entire time, 5-4 it would be 5-4, yeah. But Savannah had the extra vote, so I thought perhaps they could use that extra vote. It'd be 5-5. They'd revote. Craziness could occur.
So I only thought that extra vote would be used if they were going to split the votes and if she lost immunity. I think the only reason why she was going to use that extra vote is if she was actually in danger, and then she'd use it for an event. Once she won immunity, I said they're not using that thing tonight. She's going to keep it for whenever she actually needs it, when she's in trouble. So
no, I totally get that. I just thought perhaps they would want that 5-4 majority or 5-5 majority. However it shook out, I assumed they are always going to split votes. So I assumed maybe they'd have 5. That would, in theory, be the majority, and it would be because of that extra vote. But what ends up happening is Jawan and Sage obviously come over, but they don't vote with Steven, which is their primary alliance member, which I don't understand because why are they obsessed with being on the right side of the vote? I assume it's because they want to get in the good graces of Rizo and Savannah, maybe mooch information off them, and then backstab them, but that would be great if Rizo and Savannah weren't 10 steps ahead of Sage and Jawan. They know that they're next to go. They needed them again for necessity. I can't believe they went along with it. It seems like Rizo truly influenced them, which I thought was incredibly interesting. It really felt like Rizzo's words mattered to them.
Especially because Jawan does not want anything to do with Savannah, and Sage wants nothing to do with Savannah, yet they're voting with Savannah every time.
Yes, and it's because of Rizo, which I think is interesting, because Rizo is basically Savannah 2.0. So I don't really understand why they can't disassociate, or why they don't disassociate, rather, those two, because essentially they're one game player. That's essentially what it is. They act as one. Everything they do is in lockstep. So Jawan and Sage, to me, I understand what their logic would be. They want to still have the majority on one side while also getting closer to Savannah and Rizo, so that way they can backstab them and maybe Rizo goes home with his idol in his pocket. I guarantee you that is the thought process. The problem is they don't have the ammo to do that. They're not good enough players to do that. And they have no idea Savannah has the extra vote, or perhaps that Soph Yellow Soph did a flip-flop and is probably closer to that minority 3 now. So I just don't really understand, if they're looking at it from every single angle, how they would come to this conclusion.
They're way too late. If that's their thought process of we're going to blindside Rizo and Savannah here in a couple votes. First of all, they already did that in the Nate vote, so they already decided them.
Yes.
Now, if they're going to be like, oh, let's work with them for the time being and then backset them later, way too late to the party on that one. I could use a Game of Thrones analogy with Stannis Baratheon waiting in the snow, and then he got his whole entire army. Whatever. They waited way too long. It's essentially what happened here. It's just not the right move at all. I texted it to you. I think Sage and Jawan are the puppets that are being strung along by Rizo and Savannah. I think Rizo and Savannah are just using them for these votes. They don't even really need them, like you said. They needed the Yellow Sophie more than they needed them.
Mike, I just want to butt in. This is why Sage went undrafted. This is why.
Exactly right.
She had a okay read at the merge when she had a majority alliance backing her. That's the easiest time to have a good read in this game, when you have all these people on your side. She's trying to dictate something. She never had the pull to dictate it, even though I think her call would have been correct. She never had her intended target, the positioning, and it was just overplaying her hand. And since she did that, she's been in a worse position. If Jawan and Sage struck along Rizo and Savannah till about now and then flipped, they could have gotten Rizo out. Then you make the move. That's when you have the move to make, even if Nate's still there. Then you still have the numbers, and then that's an actual blindside. They did it too early. They tried to walk it back, and in my opinion, an attempt to do it again. I think you're in the same wavelength here. And it's just not going to work. It's a terrible move. And to me, Sage had something brewing for like a second. Joanna had something brewing for like a second. And I made the comment, I didn't really understand why Jawan didn't want to take out Sage when they had that tribe of 3. I thought he had a better chance just kind of sticking with...
not Allison, Shannon. Was she
Shannon, yes, I thought he had a better chance sticking with Shannon and just kind of doing the red strong and then making a move. I made that point to you, keeping Steven along, and then you make the move, you kind of turn later. Sage is his ride or die, and I think that's kind of the undoing of Jawan, because I think Jawan's kind of at the mercy of Sage at this point. And Jawan, I think, I don't think he's as bad as Sage. I think he's okay. But if Jawan doesn't vote with Sage, then what's the point? There's no point.
I guess I gotta give Jawan some credit, because I really thought that his name would be thrown around today. And either it's he has good relationships with people, or maybe Rizo genuinely does still trust him despite him, stabbing him in the back with the Nate vote. I guess Jawan, I figured he burned too many bridges at this point to not be a target in a group of 9. I figured, okay.
Option C, they just don't care about him.
That's another option. But I figured at this point, Jawan, there's 9 people left. He's burned bridges on both sides. He voted out MC, who's Steven's number 1. He voted out Nate, who was Savannah and Rizzo's number 1. I figured, okay, he's burned 20 bridges. He's gonna get plucked off here eventually. His name had to come up. So maybe it is option C. Maybe either he's such a good game player that he's able to burn bridges and still not have anyone look his way. I don't think that's the right option. Option B is, I don't even know what option B is. Maybe he has a win equity. And then option C is that they really just don't care about him. They're just like, okay, we're going to use it for another number, another tribal vote, and we're going to get you out whenever we want to, which I think is probably the right option here. Either way, I guess I got to give Jawan some flowers, because he's still here at Final 8, and his name has not come up. And just remember, Savannah hates him. Savannah doesn't like him. And it doesn't matter. They're not voting him out. So they're taking out whoever Rizo wants at this point. I think that Savannah's going to eventually get her way and get out who she wants. But the last 2 episodes, it's been Rizo calling the shots, and Jawan's kind of being strung along by a guy who he literally stabbed in the back 3 episodes ago. I mean, it's whatever. At this point, I don't know. Jawan, I don't think he's a great game player. I'm not gonna stoop down and say he's as bad as Sage, but I don't think he's far better. I really don't.
No, I don't think so either. And I think the problem with Jawan is his relationships are more friendly than game. I think Steven trusts him on a game level. I don't know if Christina does. I don't think Alex ever fully bought into him. Sage does. Rizo, I think he's aware. I think he, in his opinion, understands he can kind of strut Juwan along and then kind of cut him when he needs. I think Rizo understands he has a hold on him. He hasn't been good at the comps. He was second today. I don't think if that competition you are allowed to put it back up, I think he still loses. I think he drops twice before Steven drops once. Yeah. I think he hasn't looked competitive in really any of the other competitions
as well. Real quick, you know what he said? Whenever Steven was going on his nerd tangent about astrology or whatever, Juwan was like, I really needed that. I was about to go out. I really needed you to do that. Thanks, buddy. You really kept me in this thing. I think genuinely just him hearing something else kept him in that channel. I think he would have been gone within 5 minutes. I really do. But go ahead.
Yeah, and didn't he say beforehand that like he didn't want Steven because it was distracting? He didn't want Steven to say anything? I'm pretty sure that happened.
But, so that was contradictory. But then at the end, he turned around and looked at him. He's like, thank you for that. Appreciate that.
I didn't understand that whole sequence. But regardless, back to the point. I just don't think Juwan, I think he, perhaps if he were ever to get a call back, which I don't think he would, I think he could be a better game player. I think there's something there. I think there's something deep down there. I think he's a little bit too trusting, and I think he's too gung-ho on trying to make a big move. I don't think he's logically thinking about the moves he's making. I think he's just a fan who wants to be remembered, wants to have a good time, but really just wants to have a moment, just wants to have an iconic Survivor moment. You have to be more natural than that. It has to just come to you. You can't force it. To me, Juwan's been forcing it. But this is where I want to go because we've done this the last 4 or 5 weeks. We're going to do it again. Better and worse. Who is in a better position after this episode and who is in a worse position after this episode?
I think it goes without saying that, again, outside of the three who we know are in a good position, I think Yellow Sophie definitely positioned herself better. You pointed that out for sure. Before, I want to focus on more so who's in a worse position because I think we kind of know Yellow Sophie's in a better position. I'm not going to say Steven because, again, he wanted an immunity challenge. My issue with Steven, though, is he voted incorrectly. I don't know if that's intentional or not. Sometimes you see the voting out after the votes, and it's like, okay, was he meant to do that? Were they supposed to?
I don't think it was intentional.
I don't think it was either, but sometimes they'd be like, okay, you two put 2 on Soph just in case there's some weird idol plays. But, again, if you're going to dogpile on Alex, why would it matter? So, again, I don't really understand that logic. I figured he would vote for Rizo. If there was a second vote that would go anywhere, it would go to Rizo, and he didn't do that. So that really puzzled me. So I think maybe Steven's in a worse position, but I'm still going to go steadfast on Juwan. I'm sticking with Juwan. I think, again, he's burned too many bridges. I'm going to stick with it until he eventually look his way. I think if Rizzo's smart, he'll eventually cut him. When that is, I don't think it's going to be. I think it's going to be either next episode or the one after. I don't think he's going to go to the final 6 with Sage and Juwan still there as an OG 4 Uli strong member. I don't see that happening. I could be wrong. Maybe this is what Rizzo envisions. Them 3, Yellow Sophie, and then Sage and Juwan is a final 6. Maybe. I don't think so. I think they're going to cut Sage and Juwan next. I really do. Christina's just going to be strung along. I don't think anyone wants her out right now, even though she's blowing up plans and telling everybody everything. I think she's just loose lips, but similar to Yellow Sophie, I don't think that they're really worried about her. They're not worried about her winning challenges, but Yellow Sophie, they actually are worried about winning challenges. But Christina, I don't think she's going to be the one that they target next. If I'm Rizzo, who's calling the shots right now, I would be looking at, obviously, either Steven or Juwan. That's who I would look to. So I'm going to say Juwan's in a worse spot, and obviously Steven's in a worse spot because he voted incorrectly. But again, if it's Rizzo calling the shots, my guess is Juwan.
This is going to be a long-winded take on the worst. So stay with me here. So
yeah,
last week we saw Christina get the idol. She confided in Alex and Steven. We both thought perhaps Alex flips to the other side, the minority side, with Blue Soph, who we had a pre-existing relationship with.
Yep.
And he tells Soph, just as an act of faith, that Christina has the idol. Obviously, Alex is gone. It doesn't appear he did that. Here's where things get interesting. She also told Steven, who I think is aware enough to understand that he's in a bad position. So this is where things get interesting.
Interesting.
Could Steven, perhaps in an attempt to save himself, say, hey, I know Christina has an idol. Like, I want to get out, say, on whatever. Or even Christina maybe look her way. And that could be something because obviously Blue Soph has the knowledge as power and perhaps could snatch that idol. Then the minority would be in an unbelievable position. Yeah. And that would be kind of it for the season. I don't think the other side could really recuperate after that. Here's another thing where it could get interesting. So I texted you this, and I don't know how much this matters, but in this game, everything matters a little bit.
Sure.
Right now, There's only 3 men left. So
yes, 5-3, yeah.
it's a 5-3. Would Rizzo really want to target Joanne and then leave it 5-2? Because at that point, and we've seen this, not necessarily just gender, but along whatever lines you want to craft it.
Harvard-y.
When there's 5 like people together, they look around like, hey, we could just coast, guys. If we get them out, we can just coast to the end, and then, we can kind of fight amongst ourselves.
Correct.
I think Rizzo is smart enough to see that. So that's why I think Christina's in trouble because of the idol thing. But more so than not, I think Sage is in deep trouble, and here's why. Sage has been running her mouth this entire time. She's been running her mouth for a week. She hates Savannah. That much is clear. She hated Shannon. That much is clear. If it gets out that Sage was the driving force behind getting out Shannon, very well could come out if, again, one of Joanne or Steven want to save themselves. If that bottoms-up alliance crumbles, which it seems like it already did, but regardless.
Sure did, yeah.
Or if someone like Christina starts talking about how, hey, Savannah, Sage has been really throwing your name under the bus, or if someone hears it, whatever it may be, she's been so vocal about it. I find it very hard to believe that doesn't come out. And then Rizzo just got what he wanted twice in a row. He just got MC out. He just got Alex out. They can't let him get a third person he wants in a row out. That's far too powerful, especially with an idol in his pocket. So I could see, particularly the Sophies and Savannah saying, we got to get Sage out. We think she's a snake. We think she's kind of a danger to us in this game. We don't know what she's about. For the same kind of logic that Rizzo wanted Alex out, I think those 3 ladies could target Sage, because I think Christina, although she definitely annoys Yellow Sophie, I don't think she's really on the radar right now.
No.
And so I think the move then is Sage. So I think Sage is in a worse position. That's my take. I think Christina, if things shake out, if Steven's really in danger, Christina's screwed. But if that's not the case, which I don't think it is, because Steven has enough inroads and he's been really good in the comp, so I think he could easily just win another comp. Then it'd be Steven. But as far as in a better position, you mentioned Yellow Sophie. That goes without saying.
Of course.
What about the obvious choice here? It's not Rizzo either. It's the other Sophie. It's Blue Sophie.
Oh, yeah, no. Of course.
Seemingly is avoiding all the blowback that you should be getting if you're the third wheel without power. Usually, this is the person that is the most vulnerable. She doesn't necessarily have help from Rizzo. I think Rizzo would ponder using the idol on Savannah. I don't think he would ever ponder it on Blue Sophie. That's just my analysis of the situation. They're clearly working together, but Savannah's the day one, okay? And then Savannah has the necklace. So if you're Soph, you're kind of looking around like, oh,
you should be in trouble.
You should be in trouble. And going forward, she should still be in trouble.
But these players aren't. But these players aren't good. The other side.
No. And it seems like by avoiding this vote, Mike, it seems like she is now in the clear. I don't know who's coming for anytime soon. And her win equity is a little shaky. I think there's this notion she's terrible at comps. I think she's done a lot better since she refueled a few episodes ago, which in Survivor time is only like 3 or 4 days because of how these episodes are slated.
Yeah.
I think that's done a lot for her. But she was so bad at the beginning because they kept losing. And it was visually bad, the way they were losing, and she was never getting food. They never had flint, whatever. She was shown as weak. So there's probably still some perception that she's a little bit weaker of a physical threat. But as far as socially, she played Christina like a fiddle. She has worked herself in masterfully with Savannah, where I think for Savannah, it's a 1A, 1B with Rizzo and Soph. I don't think she necessarily has a hierarchy there.
She doesn't want to lose either. She doesn't want to lose either.
Whereas Rizzo clearly does have a hierarchy, in my opinion. It's Savannah, then it's Soph. So, Blue Sophie, if she can eke out a challenge win here, if, she can do one thing here or there, she has a ton of win equity all of a sudden. When in a different universe with competent game players, she would have went home tonight.
By the way, I already knew this, but you kind of just confirmed this. I think Savannah, of those 3, is in the best spot. You just kind of said it right there. Rizzo, his number 1 is Savannah. Sophie, Blue Sophie, who's the number 1 of the 3 there? Obviously Savannah as well. She's combining in her more than she is Rizzo. So of those 3, Savannah's going to get what she wants, I think, if it push comes to shove.
Who's Yellow Sophie's number 1?
I don't know.
I think it's leaning towards Savannah now. I think there's this mutual
Yeah.
I think there's a mutual challenge respect there.
If you can't beat her, join her. Yeah. If you can't beat
I think once they buried the hatchet, it was clear to me that Yellow Sophie really wanted to work with Savannah. I think it was one of those, you can't beat him, might as well join him, as you mentioned.
Sure.
Will it last? I don't know. But that's, at least as of right now, as of this recording, that's 3 people who love Savannah.
Yeah, but to get back to your point, because yours was more a prediction of what could possibly happen next, and it was a long-winded way of saying Sage is possibly in a worse spot. Here's where I think that very well could happen. If that's the result of next week's episode, I would not be surprised. Here's what I also think will probably happen or could happen in this. So you called it already. Rizo has controlled the last 2 votes. The person he wanted out is the one who went out.
And Mike, this is important. He controlled them vocally. It wasn't like it was a secret. Everyone knows that Rizzo's
target went home. Right, yeah. Rizzo's target went home the last 2 episodes. So that's why I want to get to this point here. I don't believe this cast is dumb enough to let him make a 3rd consecutive decision on the vote. So I don't believe he will be. I know. I don't
know about that.
I know. I don't believe he will be leaving this 3rd vote in a row. I just don't. Okay, if I'm wrong,
I don't think Savannah and Blue Sophie would allow it, and I think that's all that matters.
This is why I'm getting to. So here's the thing. Savannah, I think, knows. Okay, Rizzo just made 2 really impressive votes in a row. Those were his moves. I know I want immunity back-to-back weeks, but if I'm sitting next to Rizzo in the final 3, he's going to say, those were I got out MC. You could have joined us on the beach or not. I got out MC. I got out Alex. I persuaded everybody to get out Alex. So I think Savannah is a smart enough player to know that. I think Savannah is not going to let Rizzo control this next vote. So my point is, Rizzo's smart enough to realize the 5-3 advantage. I don't think he wants another guy to go home. I think Savannah does want another guy to go home. In my opinion, I think Savannah has her eyes finally set on Jawan. I think she's going to do whatever she can to persuade people to go out and get Jawan out of here. I really do. I think she's kind of, played around with it in the pre-merge of like, okay, I hate Jawan. He puts, bugs in my bag, whatever. I think she finally wants to get Jawan out of here. And I think she sees this advantage. I know Sage doesn't really count because she's not going to work with Sage, obviously, yet. But the 5-3 advantage is a real point. It is a real big deal. And again, Rizzo's already got the person he wanted out twice in a row. I think the Alex one maybe was a vote too early if I was him, but he's got now 2 people in a row that he wanted. I think Savannah calls this next shot, and I think that her shot lands, I think, on Jawan. If I'm her, that's who I'm trying to get out. I know Sage is petty. There's beef there. If I'm Savannah, I'm not even worried about Sage. I don't think she can, win a challenge to save her life. I don't really care what it is. And I don't think she has much win equity. I really don't. I don't think Jawan does either. But if I'm her, I'm looking at the gender discrepancy here, and I'm saying if I get Jawan out of here, Steven's the only guy left. Rizzo is the other one. He's got an idol. Steven's good at challenges. The guys are still big threats. And then obviously the 5 women here, I'm better than all of them women here. But Yellow Sophie's going to give me some challenges, but Christina, don't have to worry about her. Sage, don't have to worry about her. Blue Sophie, I have in my pocket. So if I'm Savannah, I'm looking at Jawan, laser focused. Who, another shark analogy, Jawan thinks he's the shark now. He's like, I'm like the guy in Jaws. I'm now the one circling the the waters here. I'm calling the shots. That's when, if I'm Savannah, I'm looking at him and saying, okay, now I get you out because I strung you along for a couple of votes, thanks to Rizzo, who was the bridge there. He was calling the shots. Now I'm calling the shots, and you're gone, and I can get Rizzo closer back to me. That's what I would do if I was Savannah, and I think that she's going to control the next vote. Again, if Rizzo controls the 3rd straight vote, I will come on here and put him in the Mount Rushmore of New Era players. I don't care. I don't think they're stupid enough to let it happen. I really don't. I mean, am I crazy for saying that? Maybe I am.
A little tiny bit. I think what's going to be interesting is Savannah would be smart enough to try to target Jawan or Steven, depending on however she's feeling, either the comp beast or the person that's been annoying her the most. I wonder if Rizzo puts up such a fight that Savannah allows it. So Rizzo's not necessarily controlling the vote, but she understands Rizzo's point of Sage is snake in the grass. I think the only way Rizzo is able to, quote-unquote, control another vote, he has to target Sage.
But he has to... Yeah, but he has to make it seem like Savannah's the one that's controlling it. It's like Savannah wants to her beef. I don't think Savannah's dumb enough to be like, I'm going to get out Sage because I have this beef with her. On a game level, that's not really the best move, in my opinion. But
no, it's not. I just think if he tried to get out Jawan, it'd be dumb for him, but then I think the other people will just go with it. It's not necessarily him controlling it. It's just kind of the fact of life situation, excuse me.
Sure.
Just going forward, though, we saw in the preview Rizzo bawling his eyes out for whatever reason. I wonder if Rizzo and Savannah had a little bit of a tiffy, if you will, about who they should vote out, and that was him crying to apologize, like, hey, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cause this fight. What do you think that was about? Because we often use these previews as kind of a gauge for what could happen. And usually we dismiss it like, oh, that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. This felt like it matters because this is the most cool, calm, and collected guy out there. Maybe it's something as simple as like, I don't know, it's his dad's birthday or something. Who knows what it is? But to me, it felt like it was game relevant. What did you think about that?
I think that he's probably going to have to do something that he doesn't want to do, like maybe cross someone that he doesn't want to cross. I don't know, but I think that it is.
Maybe it is Juwan, Mike. Maybe he does have that personal connection with Juwan. He just doesn't want to vote him out.
Of course, he doesn't. I don't think he wanted to vote out any Uli member. I mean, the Nate one, obviously, he didn't vote out Nate, but that's
right.
And obviously Shannon, he wasn't there for that one. But I do believe that we are heading towards. I don't think Savannah and Rizo are going to go through this entire game with no riffs. Like they're going to eventually have an argument as to who really who's the one that's driving this car, if you will. Who's the one that's behind the wheel? And I think Rizo wants it to be him, and I know Savannah wants it to be her. So I think that eventually that will clash, and I think Rizo, I don't know if he's going to cave into it or not, or maybe he's just going to have to eventually be like, okay, I got to stop playing with my emotions here and make a legit decision here, which probably for him would be getting on stage. But Savannah, I think that we're kind of heading towards the three people on the bottom are no longer on the bottom because, like you said, they have Yellow Sophie now. Jawan and Sage are kind of chickens with their heads cut off. Steven may do anything to save himself. I think they're honestly in a majority. I'm just going to call it right now. They're not the minority 3 anymore. They're kind of like the majority 4 of the 8 left, if we're being real, because they also have the extra, like you mentioned. So I think that this is going to come down to they dictate the vote, and I think it's going to be Rizo, having a heart-to-heart of what should he do, because I think he's now the new, swing. Like we saw today's episode, who was the one narrating the swing vote? It was Sage and Jawan. They really weren't important votes.
And I texted you immediately that wasn't accurate. I think the episode wanted to portray that, and whether they believed it,
they'll send home Alex or Rizo. It's up to them. It's up to their votes, which really wasn't.
Yeah, which I immediately sniffed out wasn't true. I do want to ask you this though, because I want to get us on track here. If you were Yellow Soph, Blue Soph, Savannah, and Rizo, would you veer from the course? Because oftentimes in shows like this, you just don't want to stick with your core. You always want to cross someone out. Mm-hmm. But I think in a way, this 4 is mutually beneficial to each other, and any of them, depending on how this shakes out, could win. And if they went off track, it would be far too dangerous for any of them. What do you think about that?
No, I think that Yellow Sophie cannot sit in the final 3 with Savannah. I don't think there's any world where that can happen. It's like a Genevieve and Rachel situation where they got to get. If she can't
no, I agree with you, but I mean the 4. Getting to final 4. Don't think about 3. Think about 4.
See, I think that you have to get them out before 4, because if there's a voting block of 2, which is Savannah and Rizo, you can't bring that duo to 4. I mean, we saw last year there was 2 duos in the block.
Could you convince Blue Sophie to go on your side, and then it's Sophie squared and Rizo, and then I think Yellow Sophie has a chance for sure.
Well, we just saw last season. We had Eva and Joe, who were a pair, and we had Kyle and Camilla, who were a pair, and that was the final 4. So they did not stray away from that at all. So it could happen. My thing is, I don't think it will happen. I think that Yellow Sophie wants to get Savannah out before the final 4, because I think she views Savannah as her biggest female competitor threat. Whatever the final 4 is, whether it's a puzzle, whether it's balancing, it's usually one of the 2 for a final immunity challenge. I think she wants Savannah out of there before then. I do think that she's beneficial for a game right now and maybe getting to final 6, final 5, but I think she has to cut her before that scenario happens. So I think right now that 4 makes sense for the next few tribals, but I think it's a very fluid game. I think that one of them has to turn on the other. I think that even you could see a world where Savannah or Rizo flip on each other. I think that could happen.
I don't see that world. Personally, I don't see that world. I think they're far too dominant of a duo to do that.
Right, but that's want to bring another person in the final 3. You don't really want to.
You only one can win. But I do want to bring this point up. So you're the 3 then. If you're Blue Sophie, Savannah, Rizo, who is your 4 then? Who do you want to be the 4, or do you not really care about it? Because it's just going to be a GOAT, and then you 3 kind of duel it out.
You don't care about it. It could be Christina. It doesn't matter.
I agree with you.
It really doesn't matter for them. I think it's like a placeholder seat, if you will. My whole point was you don't want to, and you see with the new era players specifically, they don't want to allow someone to make fire and then that be their deciding over the top view of
right.
Now they win the game because they made fire. So I think that the way,
which is stupid, but it's true.
I know it's very stupid, but I think if you're going to cut somebody, it has to be a final 5, because at final 4 you don't want to then I'm going to make you do fire, because that actually could be a detriment to your game. You don't actually want to give them that opportunity. So if you're going to try and get somebody out, you can't be like, make fire and I'm going to get you out that way. You have to get them out before then. So 5 is the one to make a move on. I think
I could see them. The core 4 plus like a Christina
as the final.
Whoever survives of Christina and Sage, one of them will probably be voted out within the next 2 episodes, and the other one is probably a GOAT pick.
If that's the final five, why would you vote out Christina at final five? And
you wouldn't, unless Yellow Sophie won immunity, you wouldn't, and then your GOAT is the fallback, and then it's not that big of a deal because you have a fallback.
Yeah, it would be
I
like
think that's kind of where we're heading for the final five, which we were told that the end game was amazing, and perhaps this is what Jeff was alluding to, the fact that Rizzo was masterfully able to not use his idol 2 weeks in a row, and then maybe he does use it and it's a big deal. I don't know, but so far it's been masterful to an extent, but it's been it's been ridiculous in a way because of how inept these players are. My final thing with you is here, do you think Christina's idol makes a difference at all?
I mean, I hope it does. I mean, if not, it's just it better make some kind of. I mean, maybe she uses it at final six and blindsides somebody, and that's her moment of the season because she does still have it, and and I'm assuming if she's in final six, she'll be at the bottom, and she'll know that. So maybe we are setting up for some kind of big Christina moment. Again, I don't know. I hope we are, because if not, it's totally pointless. But yeah, I think that she's going to end up having to make a move with that idol for better or for worse. She's going to have to, because obviously right now we look at it. I think that one of her and Steven, as the last remaining Hina members, will be able to kind of, slide through the cracks there and make it to Final Five. Obviously, she's the one with the idol. I think Steven's the better game player. I believe one of them will get through and make it, probably get to Final Four. I think one of them has a real chance to get to Final Four. And then at that point, you make fire, maybe you win. I don't know. But I think Christina and Steven, one of those two people, have a real shot, especially if I starting to get pointed Jawan and Sage, and Uli eventually starts to take shots at each other. And also, Yellow Sophie's a part of the original Hina as well. But I'm kind of assuming she's flipped sides. I'm kind of just assuming she's on the other side now.
More or less likely to go home with the idol in her pocket?
Christina, you're talking about Christina. Is she more or less likely to go home with the idol in her pocket? I don't think she's going to go home with an idol in her pocket. I don't think that
okay. You think she plays it? Or gets it taken? One of the two.
Yeah, I don't think she's as confident or cocky as Rizzo to survive a vote that she knows she's in trouble.
By the way, is it cocky? I disagree with this. I think it's calculated, not cocky. I think cockiness assumes you're kind of in over your head. He's been calculated the whole time. Everything he's said not only has happened, but is more than happened. He got more than necessary last week. He got more than necessary this week.
Right, which is why I do believe it's a little bit cocky. I think that if it's calculated, again, Jawan and Sage, the right move was to put 5 on Rizzo. I don't care what anyone says, that's the right move. And if Rizzo was looking at it from a strategic lens, in their lens, I think he would know the right move is to put 5 votes on him. So if I was him,
all you can do is play what's in front of you. It's like a sports schedule. If you're playing a terrible team, you kind of have to go in. You can't underestimate them, but you have to be privy to the fact that they're a bad team, right? That's part of sports.
Yeah, but had he went home tonight, I would have come on here and said I think he got a little bit off topic and too involved in the Alex vote. I think he got a little bit 100%. I would have said I think he got a little bit over his skis a little bit. He was the one calling the shots. I mean, he literally came back to tribal council after the MC vote, singing his own praises. So I would have told you he got a little bit overconfident, just a little bit. And that
all I'm saying is he's playing what's in front of him. He's playing to the level of them. That's my only counter. I hear you. I know. On a normal season, I would agree that it's cocky. It's a bit brash, if you will. I think given how terrible these people are around him, I don't think it's cocky at all because he just has a good understanding of this people's level.
I think by the way, if he does that on 50, which we know he's on 50, I think if he does that on 50...
He's got to respect that cast a little bit more than this one, right? Like, he has to. He's a student of the game.
By the way, Suri is on 50. If he goes up to Suri and starts planting seeds that Colby Donaldson is the biggest threat in the alliance, or in the tribe, she will read right through that and she will vote him out. That's all I'm saying.
By the way, so will everyone else probably.
Of course. There's no way he can go to 500 and play. But again, he's playing with the cast. He's playing with.
So will Ozzy. So will Rachel. So will Genevieve. You can just name someone on 50. They will read right through his crap. That's why I assume. They didn't see the season though. They didn't see the season. So they didn't see the season. True, but I assume. I really think Rizzo is brilliant at this game. I really think he's playing to his competition. I have to assume he has so much respect for the 50 cast that he will just kind of change up his gameplay because of who's around him. But that leads me to this. Any final thoughts, whether it's on the episode, going forward, anything?
My final thoughts are I'm interested in the preview. The preview didn't really give us much, did it? I mean, it really didn't give us...
No, I mean, it was... It was a more interesting preview than the last few weeks because the Rizo tears that caught me. I was like, oh, that's something I wasn't expecting.
I just don't know what that's about. So my whole thing was
that could be nothing. That could be a sob story.
Could very well be nothing. Yeah, I mean that's 2 weeks in a row we've gotten one of those. So maybe it could be. What I'm interested to see is the knowledge. I'm gonna keep harping on it. 3rd week in a row. I want to see when that knowledge is power gets used, if it ever does get used. Because again, Blue Sophie knows that Rizo has an idol. It's not hidden. Obviously, everyone knows it. She also knows that Christina has an idol. If I'm her and I want to make a big move this season, I'm either taking it from Rizo straight up, even though he's in my alliance, or I'm taking it from Christina and using it for myself. And we're just going to be the most stacked foursome you'll ever see outside of the FOA4 back in season 19. So she could do that. I want to know what she does with it because I think she's in a great spot. Like you mentioned, Christina's confiding in her for some reason. And then also after the challenge wants to use her as a backup plan. Very strange, but she could.
Do you think she's confiding in her after this?
No, but she did before in the water well before the challenge started. She's like, "Hey, vote with us." And after the challenge, she's like, "Hey, let's just put the votes on Sophie again or Blue Sophie." So she confided in her. Then she wanted her as a backup plan. I think Blue Sophie just take her idol. I know that she doesn't know it yet, but if Steven does come to her in a way of faith and hey, she has the idol, I saw her take it. Maybe Blue Sophie uses it eventually. But I want to see how this end game plays out because Jeff keeps teasing it that it's good. We still haven't seen any big idols get used. MC used it. It was totally null and void. I want to see when Rizzo's going to use his idol, if he ever does. I want to see when the knowledge of power get used. I want to see when Christina uses her idol, if she ever needs to use it. I don't know. I want to see how this all gets played out because there's obviously the advantage with the extra vote. I want to see how that gets used. So all this stuff still has to be unfolded. We'll talk about it, but right now, not as chaotic as an episode. Alex goes out on a dog pile 6-2-1. So nothing crazy this week, but in the previews next week kind of set up for possibly some chaos.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to this alleged awesome endgame. We've been waiting for it. Perhaps this is the start of it, which at that point we'd be like, okay, sure. It's been awesome to see Rizo kind of be a really great modern Survivor character, and I would say the same with Savannah, and to an extent I'd say the same thing with Blue Soph as well. I think she's playing hard. She doesn't have necessarily the acclimate of the other two as far as challenges are concerned or kind of playing every side just because of how she started the game. But I think those three, if nothing else we got from this season, we got 3 people that 2 of them have already been called back. I think if Blue Sophie can make it to the end, she can get called back at any time. We're at least getting something. Even if the rest of the cast is bad, at least we got 3 people so talented with so much upside that they can at least be, long-lasting Survivor players. Whereas last season, to me, we only got 1 of those people. I know Camilla came back as well. I thought Camilla was good, but I thought Kyle was...
No, we got Kyle, Camilla, and Joe. All of them have been called back.
Well, I wasn't counting Joe either.
You weren't counting Joe. He's on 50.
Absolutely not. First of all, I forgot he was on 50. Second of all, I was not counting him. That was geared at Camilla, who I thought was pretty good, but I thought they wanted her to be more of a mastermind than she actually was.
So you don't think Joe is a good player? Just real quick, not to go off. You don't think Joe is a good player?
Absolutely not.
Wow.
I thought Joe was Friends University on a Friends University cast. I thought if Joe played with people a little more cerebral, they would have snapped his neck so fast it's not even funny. I think if Joe was on this cast, I think he would be gone instantly.
Oh, I don't know.
I think Joe benefited from the nicest modern cast in Survivor history. I don't think that's a debate. You can't argue that, right? That's the cast with doing the chant during the reward challenge. That's that cast. That's the cast with Mitch. That I'm right. I see. I don't know.
I think that Joe has a lot of pull in a lot of seasons. I've seen a lot of seasons of Survivor. I think that there's people that try to beat Joe, the Joe character. Then there's people who completely flail out. Joe is one of the few characters who could be such a huge physical threat when a lot of challenges.
What the hell are we talking about Joe right now?
I have no idea. But he made it to final 3 and no votes were cast against him. I think it's a big deal. I really don't. I think it's a big. That's really impressive.
We'll find out very quickly if he was a cast merchant, which I think he was, or if he was like this ultimate friendship power guy that you think he was. Well, so one of us will be proven correctly.
Well, Coach was the same guy. Coach was the exact same way, and he made it to final 3. So
I think he was a little bit better at it, but yeah.
If you play your cast to the way that they cater, that means you're playing a social game. If you're catering,
I just don't think he was playing. I just think that's who he was, and I don't think he was really playing. No, I think he benefited from the cast. I really do.
Okay,
I think he benefited from the cast kind of eating out of his hand. Joe's an amazing human being. I'm not taking that away from him.
I'm not even saying. Again, I agree. But if everyone Joe last year was the vessel that everyone went to confide in. Even Kyle was confiding in probably his best shot to win. I think if everyone's looking to you and be like, hey, who do we vote out? You have some kind of pull over this
Mike,
entire
here we go. Ready?
Yeah.
Does Cherie trust Joe the way they did?
No chance.
Does
No.
Ozzy trust Joe the way they did?
I think that Ozzy, I've seen Ozzy seasons. Ozzy likes to bro up with the guys, but I think that maybe he, in his fifth time, would read that no, he would not do that.
What about Rachel? Do you think she would fall for his stuff?
I think Coach
or
would.
Genevieve?
I think Coach would. I think Q would. I think that those guys would all be.
Do you think Rizzo or Savannah would? Come on.
No. I think Colby Donaldson saying, hey, Joe, me and you. We're good.
There's a few people that could definitely attach themselves to Joe. Again, I don't know how we went off in this tangent.
I don't either.
But real fast, I think one of us is right. I don't know who's right. Obviously, I think I'm right, and you obviously think you're right.
I think
there's at least a really good argument on both sides for it.
Sure. I don't know if he's a great player. I think he had a great season in that cast. I think he was one that
100%. He played that cast like a fiddle, and there's no doubt about it. Which I think Savannah, Rizzo, and so far doing to an extent, not the same extent because obviously they were on the bottom.
Sure.
But I think in a different way they are playing this cast like a fiddle because I think this cast is not on their level. I think Yellow Soph, I know she's had some struggles here or there. I think she wants to be at their level. I think there's something lacking. I think it's her inability to lie with a lying face, if you will. I think that's harming her. I think she's a smidge too blunt, just a teeny tiny bit. But I think there's something there with Yellow Soph as well. So I do want to throw her name out there.
Yeah. You think that Blue Sophie should get brought back because she thinks she's dominating the game? I don't know if she's dominating the game. I think she's more so she was at the mercy of the Rizzo-Savannah alliance.
I think she's woven herself in such an impressive way.
She's a good social player.
She played up the fact that she was this wounded puppy and then flawlessly transitioned to someone kind of only playing one side, but people thought she was trustworthy, which I think means a lot, as in Christina. And I think to an extent, even like some of the other people did too. They were like, oh, like maybe we can get Blue Sophie on our side, which that was never really feasible. So I think she got dealt a bad draw with her initial tribe. So I think that didn't help. And then I think since the merge, after the Nate vote, at least the last 3 weeks, I think she's been flawless with everything she's done. So I think that matters.
Well, to the exact point, I think that people think she's very trustworthy. People confide in her. I think the exact same thing can be said about Joe. Not to go back to Joe, but I think that if you think Sophie deserves a shot,
different thing.
If you think that Blue Sophie deserves a call back, I think Joe also deserves a call back because everyone thought he was trustworthy to a fault, even when they really didn't have him. I mean, David and Mary are going up to him being like, "Hey, we need your vote."
Last thing on Joe, I think my only gripe with him is there became a point where everyone thought he was such a nice guy. No one wanted to vote him out. Not necessarily because he had this power over them, which technically he did. But I think you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, but Camilla wanted to vote him out.
We physically can't do this. He's too nice. It's beyond the game. He's just such a nice guy. To me, that is how I took it at points last year.
Okay. I took it as Camilla wanted to vote him out at like final 8. She just didn't have Kyle's number with her to vote him out.
She was the only one.
Yes, but his relationship with Kyle, the bridge there, was able to get Joe surviving all these votes. Yeah. In a normal season, Joe would be voted out at final 8, final 9. After he finally loses, he would be voted out. That's his archetype. They always get voted out. Final 8, final 9. Once they finally lose. I thought that he played a really good game. Maybe that's just my opinion. I don't know. I think Camilla was a good player, and she wanted him out, and she couldn't get him out because he had good relationships with other people. That's what I thought. But, I don't know.
If you're still here for 10 minutes of Joe talk, congratulations. This was the Gurus on Reality. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We'll be back tomorrow for another Gurus on Reality. We are doing our very first show review. So obviously we react to Survivor, but we're talking like episodic television. All Her Fault. Woo. Amazing show that we both binged on Peacock. So the review of that show will be coming out tomorrow. Our girl, Sarah Schnook, was unbelievable in it from Succession. This is another great performance from her. So that will be in the pipeline. We'll be doing a mailbag as well, either later this week or early next week. We talked about it last week, and then Bill Simmons dropped his. So me and Mike were like, hey, we don't want to look like we're copying the guy we often bring up. But truly, this has been in the works for a while. And we're just going to kind of talk through a ton of sports stuff, whatever you guys want to talk about, TV, whatever it may be. So we'll be at your mercy for that. And then I also, if you noticed, I fixed the camera. I fixed the camera. The camera looks awesome. So the videos will be in the pipeline officially now. I wanted to fix it. It took me a long time, watched a ton of tutorials, but we're here. I'm crystal clear. So some YouTube videos will go up, including, and I've teased this for weeks, it is coming, I promise, the Dreamcast of Big Brother Second Chances. Again, second chances. That doesn't mean third. That doesn't mean fourth. That means second chances. Players that have only played once that I want back. So that'll be coming in the pipeline as well. As for Mike Testa, I am Xavier Aguiar, and we will see you next time.